Not every single movie you watch is going to blow you away, especially in horror. And I feel like that's not always what I'm looking for. I'm honestly most of the time just looking to be entertained and to walk away from a movie and be like, yeah, I liked that. I enjoyed that. So after watching like 10 billion new horror movie releases this year, I want to highlight some that may have flown under your radar. So I have 10 horror movies that may not be 5-star movies, but I still think are really good and would totally recommend to people. So here are some underrated gems. First up is Violett, and this is an Australian film, and this is about this mom, Sonia, who has this weird eerie feeling that something evil is going to snatch up her 11-year-old daughter, Violett. And we don't quite understand what the mom is so scared of, but we start to get glimpses of this neighborhood, and all of the people that live in this town are so freaky. Like they just look like straight out of evil storybook characters. They're freaky looking. And that's what the movie feels like, though. It feels like you are a part of the classic Disney stories like Snow White or Cinderella or all these types of things. But like if they were very evil, creepy, paranoid feeling, that's what Violett feels like. And we start to get this sense of like something is wrong, but we don't quite know what it is. And then once we start to piece together what we think is going on, and once it's revealed to us, it is just like a punch in the gut. All this imagery is so creepy. There is this scene that takes place in this barn that literally scared the living hell out of me. I don't know if it's because I watched it like at 1 a.m., but it was so freaky to me because it like takes place through the eyes of a child. So I think you just feel like very kid-like when you're watching it, and you're like, that is freaky to me. So I really liked this one. I thought the storytelling was so well done in this movie. The acting is phenomenal as well. This one you can rent on video on demand. Next up is Lowlifes, and this one was such a fun one. This is about a family who is on this road trip, and all of a sudden they encounter this weird family, and their survival instincts kick in when they meet this family because they have to stay overnight at their house, and then all this crazy stuff goes down. This was such a gem to watch. Now, it does have a twist, and I totally saw the twist coming. I feel like a lot of people see the twist coming, but that didn't even matter because it was just how the twist plays out is the fun part to watch. It's just gory. It has such great practical effects and like good comedic relief. I absolutely loved how just chaotic this movie was and how fun. It's just fun. I love a good fun horror that you don't have to think too hard about, that has a good twist, but like you don't feel like it was just random and misplaced. This was such a gem. This is a Tubi original too, and not to like hate on Tubi. Tubi has some good movies, but like they are really stepping up their game this year. Next up is Mind, Body, Spirit, and this is about an aspiring yoga influencer who inherits her grandma's house after her grandma passes, and when she's in her grandma's home, she finds this like weird old ritual book that's left behind. So she starts embarking on this ritual practice that her grandma left behind for her, and all of this freaky, creepy stuff starts happening. Now, I was skeptical about this one because we have had so many like influencer, YouTuber type of movies. And sometimes I really enjoy those, but I think that they get very redundant with the plot. And so I was like, okay, let's see what this one is going to give us. And it was so good. Like I loved that it didn't feel like an influencer movie. Like it wasn't super cheesy and just like cringe where I'm like, nobody, not even influencers talk like this. Cause that's what I feel like a lot of the times happens. I'm like, what influencers are you watching that do this? But this was just so freaky, and it just has this like creepy ambiance to it where like the candles are always lit, and like sometimes the camera will start to like sway and move where you're like, ooh, okay, something freaky and haunted is happening. But then it doesn't quite give it to you. Like you think you're going to see something, and that anticipation is there. You're like, I know there's going to be a jump scare. I know there's going to be something, but then there's not. But then sometimes there is. And it's just such a great feeling when you're just kind of like on the edge of your seat. I was definitely on the edge of my seat for this one like the whole time because I was thinking that something was going to pop out at us. There are like two main characters. The main yoga influencer girly, she was so good in this like awkward, quirky role of an aspiring influencer because she hasn't quite broken out of her shell yet. So she has these like weird cringe moments to herself, but she was so good at playing this role. It felt very believable because I feel like sometimes that can come off very cheesy or we're like, we know that you're acting, but she was just so good at it. And then there's this other influencer girl who's very extroverted, you know, very successful, already really high up in her career. And so she kind of has this certain air about her, but she was so good playing this role, and the way that they like them two interacted was just so good. I thought it was just so natural between them. You can rent Mind, Body, Spirit on video on demand. Next up is Amelia's Children, and this is about Edward, who's been searching for his biological family for quite some time. And once he finally gets a hold of his long lost mother and twin, him and his girlfriend decide to fly out to Portugal to have a little reunion with them. But then all of a sudden, all these weird family secrets start to unravel, and just the most chaotic, unhinged things start happening. I loved this movie. This was such a wild ride. It also has Bridget Lundy Payne, which I'm surprised that this movie didn't get kind of like more resurfaced as the year went on, because Bridget Lundy Payne was just recently in I Saw the TV Glow, and their performance in that was incredible, absolutely flawless. But I also felt that about Amelia's Children. I think that they're just such a strong actor, but in this movie they played such a funny, like comedic relief character, but then also this person that's like, bro, your family is crazy and you need to understand that your family is crazy. And it was just so incredible. I'm also very biased because I love a mommy issues movie, and this is like major mommy issues movie. You will not even expect what is going on in here. Also, the mom in this movie is very purposefully freaky looking, like she's very botched with plastic surgery, and there's a reason why. And so unfortunately her character is just very, very scary and creepy looking. If you've seen Longlegs, that's kind of the vibe it's giving. This one you can watch on Hulu. Next up is Monolith, and this is about this disgraced journalist who has turned to podcasting to kind of salvage her career, and she's struggling to find a story to have on her podcast. But then all of a sudden she comes across this strange artifact, and she's digging deeper into the background of this weird strange artifact, and she's realizing that it is linked to an alien conspiracy. This one has such a good mysterious plot line to it because it's one of those movies that just has you guessing from start to finish like what's happening, and it's very like crimey and sleuthy because she's gathering all of these backstories from these different people that have experienced and come into contact with this strange artifact. And there are literally moments where she's like, you know, putting stuff on the wall and trying to like connect the dots, and I just love things like that. I was watching this with my mom, and we would like pause the movie to discuss our conspiracies and what was going on and how it was all related. I just love movies that keep you locked in and guessing what's going to happen next. This one was such a blast. You can actually watch this on Prime now. I had to rent it. I paid money for this one, but it's free. Next up is Invasive, and this is about these two friends who break into this billionaire's house while he is going away on vacation, and they're like secretly living in his home, but then they stumble upon this insane, heinous secret, and then it becomes like this fight for survival to get out of the house. This movie has such a simple plot, but it is so freaking entertaining and like super tense at times, and also the lead character doesn't make like dumb decisions. I mean, besides the dumb decision to like break into somebody's house and try to secretly live there, but the things that she does, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what you should do when you're trying to escape out of a home. But also the way that they wrote this villain was so incredible. He really reminds me of Sebastian Stan in Fresh, and Fresh is like one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But this like arrogant, pompous, you know, villain that does these like weird random little dance moves and stuff, I was like eating this up. I thought he was like so fun but like an asshole at the same time. And once we kind of understand what this secret is in the movie, I thought this was like really clever and unique. And this is another Tubi original, and again, like Tubi is pumping out some great horror movies. Next up is Night Shift, and this is about this girl who is working her first shift at this motel that she just got a job at. It's the night shift, but then she's starting to suspect that this motel is haunted. I am a Phoebe Tonkin stan because I am a Vampire Diaries girly, and so when I saw that she was in this movie, I was like, I'm already locked in. But this movie, it's nothing you haven't seen before, okay? I need to throw that out there. This premise of this movie has been done time and time again, but the way that it was executed for this movie, I thought was really well done and very entertaining. But this movie oozes early 2000s. And that's why it feels like you've seen it over and over again, because it is so early 2000s coded. And anything that makes me feel like I was thrown back in this early 2000s era when we were getting these kinds of like little psychological thrillers with like these crazy twists, I just love that. I ate this one up. You can rent this on video on demand. Next up is Double Blind, and this is about a group of young adults who enter into this experimental drug test, but then they start discovering that this drug that they're trialing has horrendous side effects where if you fall asleep, then you die, and panic starts to ensue once they realize that they are trapped in this facility and they are trying to escape before they fall asleep and die. And when I first read this, I was like, okay, this is the Russian sleep experiment creepypasta. And when you're watching it, it feels reminiscent to that, but it's not exactly like that. But then also when I was reading the description before I watched the movie, I was like, they can make this very cheesy, but it's not at all. It's like very well executed. I really loved how well done they made this, where you as the audience feel sleep deprived as well. Like when it comes to this whole like sound design, these hallucinations, this like weird like sleep deprivation feeling, you just start to feel like you are also having these side effects of not sleeping. And we also got a couple of like body horror scenes and jump scares that I was not expecting, and I thought that was a good touch. This one is free on Tubi. Next up is Faceless After Dark, and this is about Bowie, who has had her breakout role in this killer clown movie, but now she's kind of struggling to further her career. But one day she gets held hostage by this crazed fan in her own house, and that kind of changes the whole course of her career. This movie has to do a lot with like women in entertainment and the pressures of social media and kind of like blending those two together, but it has such a bad bitch energy to it, and like, fine, I'll just do it myself kind of energy. And I was all about that. The movie feels very like big and dramatic and theatrical, but I think that's purposeful because it's like playing into this like boisterous energy. Some scenes feel like you're in a Halloween haunt because they're like so vibrant and bright and neon-y. So it kind of gave you this like Halloween feel without being this like autumnal movie. And I thought that was really cool. You can rent this one on video on demand. And last up is Cold Meat. This is about this guy who's driving through the Colorado mountains, and he stops off at this diner and he ends up saving this waitress from her abusive ex-husband, and then he hits the road again to kind of continue his trip, but then he gets stuck in this ravine during this horrific blizzard and it becomes like a fight for his life. There's a twist that happens kind of early on in the movie, and I again was watching this with my mom and we literally like gasped because we were both not expecting this, and I just love the way it was written in and totally catches you off guard. The premise of this movie is so simple but so engaging, and I kind of feel like that's hard to do because sometimes when I watch a movie that has a simple premise, I'm like, okay, some of these scenes are really, really drawn out because there's just not enough to fill it. But everything in this movie just felt so tense. I was so on the edge of my seat. I feel like they really crafted this simple plot just so well. And the special effects and the practical effects in this movie are so well done. And I watched a Q&A with the director, and he was saying how it was the first time that the special effects artist had ever worked in a movie set. It was really like one of their first jobs. And he was like, I really took a risk with this, but it's so well done in the movie. You would have never known that it was like this person's like first major job. Everything about this is just like great independent horror. I had a good time with this one. You can actually watch this for free on Prime and Hoopla. And there you have it, 10 underrated horror gems that have come out so far in 2024. Leave a comment down below. What is a movie that has come out this year that you feel is an underrated gem? I want to get a list going because there have been so many movies that have come out this year that I feel are kind of like flying under the radar for people. And I'm such an advocate for independent horror. And so I'm trying to spread that love for them. Don't forget to check out my last video that I just posted about my top 10 horror movies that have come out so far in 2024. I will also be dropping a video soon about all of the horror movies releasing in August. And I swear, as we are approaching the second half of the year, or I guess we're in the second half of the year, there are so many more movies releasing like in this half of the year. I am scared because that is a lot of movies to watch. But I will complete this challenge of watching every horror movie. I'm also currently involved in the Fantasia Film Festival. So over on my TikTok, I've been doing a lot of reviews about the movies that I've been watching there. So just to keep updated with that. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.